Hi, everyone. I am a professor at University of Utah, and as of a month ago, I am the director of the School of Computing. So I've kind of been on both the PI side, and now I'm on the director, department chair equivalent side. And what I'm going to do is take you through the first part of the departmental plan. That is articulating your context and goals. And this, in some ways, is perhaps the hardest if you're just getting started, because it takes some introspection to really figure out what you need to do. So this is just a reminder that Jeff has already covered. The BPC is intended to increase participation of a particular demographic, a particular set of groups, and these are articulated on the BPC website, the size BPC website. And so Jeff already covered this, and you can, of course, reach other groups, but you need to at least have your programs reaching, at least one of these groups on this list. So now you want to understand internally, to determine your context, you want to understand how your institution is doing with respect to these groups, and use that to identify where you want to focus your attention. So from an institutional perspective, you can look at participation relative to the percent in the university population, or relative to the percent in the community population. This second one may not be relevant to you, but I teach at a big state school, and so we're trying to at least be matching the community population and the population of our state. And you'll see in a minute that we're not. So how do you identify and articulate your context? You identify relevant data that your department has collected or compiled, and use that data to motivate your current and proposed activities. Okay, so this piece right here is from the departmental plan template that says contacts, and this blue data and evaluation is a link, and I'll show you where that takes you to in just a minute. And so the first thing you can do is start with demographic data. Everybody's institution collects this data. In public institutions, it's usually publicly available. Sometimes you need to do a little work to get it. And so we're also going to show you some public, in the next slide, some publicly available information that's linked from BPCnet. So you start with the demographic data, and then you notice some challenge that you would like to address with your BPC plan. And so you need to dig deeper into that data to try to figure out what's going on. And so we're going to kind of walk through that with respect to my own institution. And then use that context data to establish the goals for your program. So this is from bpcnet.org/statistics. And it is the IPEDS data that's publicly available. And you can also see a different tab, for K through 12 enrollment. So this is IPEDS data for University of Utah. And it is the computing degrees that have been awarded. And the way that we ask for this data, it's shown by gender and by ethnicity. And so you can see how many degrees went to these various different groups. And I'm going to show you some other data that fits better on a slide, but this is a valuable resource from BPC now, particularly for those people who don't have access to their institutional data. Here's the demographics. They're roughly match what you would see on that last slide. So in the School of Computing, I started chairing a diversity committee about a decade ago. And at that time, we had actually less than 4% of our undergrads were women. And in fact, there was this small enough group that we knew them all, could identify them by name. And over time, our population has more than doubled over the last decade, and the percentage of women both in the program and degree recipients has tripled. But still, we're pretty far below the Tolby 21% of undergrads in the last survey that are women. Also, the population of Utah is the largest demographic, the largest ethnicity group that in the state is Latinx, and makes up 14% of the state population. And at the university, it's 13% of our undergrads. But in the School of Computing, only 8% of our students. So what you can see from just this table, the demographics of our undergraduate program don't match the university, which means there's some students at the university that we could potentially recruit to become computer scientists. And also don't match the state population. And the state population, I'll just reiterate, is relevant to us because we're a state school, but may not be very important to you if a lot of your students come from outside the state. If you look at this, you see an opportunity. We have an opportunity to recruit students already at the university. And it turns out, because we're in the major population center for the state, that we have an opportunity to recruit from the K through 12 in the Salt Lake City School District because it is very diverse, and it's also because it's got the big city in the state. It has a large number of Title I schools, and they're just a few miles away. So that gave us some superficial information about what we might want to do. But to do a deeper analysis, you need more data. And depending on what you're trying to find out, the data that you want will vary, and the sources of that data will be varying degrees of difficulty to obtain. So we have institutional and departmental data on demographics of individual courses and course performance by various categories. So the first thing we notice, or the question you might ask is, do we have a recruiting issue? And so to identify that, you can say, what are the percentage of women and Latinx students in introductory courses? And it is already pretty low, even in the very first class, which means that we need to get more students into that very first computer science class to make the future classes have a chance of being more diverse. And the second question is, do we have a retention issue? So we have a way of tracking the percentage of women who from one course to the next in the course sequence. And so what you see is, as the students are progressing through the course sequence, the percentage of women in the classes is decreasing. Another question you can ask is the DF or withdrawal rate is in the CS1 class, is it higher for women? And the answer is yes. So this tells us we need to work on recruiting and retention. And you see, I only have gender for some of these. That happens to be the kind of data that I have available to me. Okay, and deeper analysis, and I've seen this on the chat. You work with experts to try to help you go through a process to identify the issues that you want to address with your BPC plan. So the School of Computing is currently working with NCWIT Extension Services Learning Circles. And I've seen people talking about this on the chat, and it's also, you can also follow this link or go through the BPC net to find it. So what is a learning circle? 3 academic departments plus NCWIT consultant and staff. They work together for roughly a year. You apply to NCWIT, demonstrating support from your departmental leadership. Meetings are monthly, and one of the things that you do is survey students in early classes, and then through the course of this effort, you develop a plan that is similar to the goals for the BPC plan. So that gives you the goals. And so this is the goals portion of the departmental plan template. So identify the goals you'll pursue during the effective dates of the departmental plan. They should be motivated by the data and be accomplished by the activities. We'll talk about activities later. And so there are resources available for writing BPC goals as well on BPCnet. The context analysis that we did identified issues in both recruiting and retention. And so we came up with the following 3 goals. One was to expand undergraduate mentoring and research, to increase recruiting and retention of groups underrepresented in computing, and to promote community building activities. So these first 2 are about retention. And then the third one is create computing specific outreach programs for the local Title I schools with the goal of stimulating early interest in computing. And then this is available in BPCnet, some example goals, so you can use that maybe to come up with ideas of your own.